A person reads a simple message, and within seconds the mind races ahead to the worst ending imaginable. Catastrophizing is the habit of turning a small problem into a future disaster, even when no disaster has happened. It can feel sudden, like the brain grabs one clue, skips the middle parts, and jumps straight to the final scene. The story sounds convincing because it uses real facts like a late reply, a tight chest, or a mistake at work, and then adds scary meaning on top of them. Staying to the end matters because catastrophizing is not just overthinking or a weak personality. It is a safety system that can be understood, softened, and redirected, so the brain stops acting like every normal day is an emergency. It often starts in ordinary places. Someone sees a missed call from a family member. Someone gets a short email from a manager with no warmth. The brain does not pause to ask for context. It assumes danger first. From the outside, catastrophizing can look like dramatic thinking. Inside, it feels like problem solving. The mind says it is preparing. If the worst is imagined early, maybe it can be avoided. That promise is what makes the habit stick. The brain is built to predict. Predicting danger helped humans survive. The threat system reacts faster than the parts of the brain that do careful planning. When the brain senses a possible threat, it pushes the body into alert mode. Heart rate rises, muscles tense, breathing shifts. The body prepares to act before the person has time to sort the facts. In that moment, brain picks speed over accuracy because missing danger feels worse than being wrong. That body alarm can become evidence. A shaky feeling is read as proof that something bad is coming. A tight throat is treated like a warning sign. The mind forgets that alarms can be triggered by many things like stress, lack of sleep, caffeine, or grief. Once the body feels scared, the mind searches for a story that matches the feeling. Uncertainty is another fuel. The human brain hates missing information. A blank space in a story feels unsafe, so the mind fills it fast. If a friend has not replied, the mind fills the gap with rejection. If a test result is not back yet, the mind fills the gap with a serious illness. The worst story can feel like the safest guess because it prepares for pain. There is a quiet switch in catastrophizing. The mind treats possibility like probability. It whispers, "It could happen," and then quickly changes that into, "It will happen." This is not because the person is foolish. It is because the brain is trying to reduce surprise. A bad surprise hurts. The brain would rather hurt now in imagination than feel helpless later. Memory plays a role too. The brain stores emotional memories with extra strength. If something painful happened before, the brain tags similar moments as risky. A new relationship can wake old memories of being left. A small mistake can wake old shame from school. Even if the present is different, the nervous system remembers the feeling and reacts as if the past is returning. The world around people can strengthen the habit. Constant alerts and scary headlines train attention toward danger. The brain learns that disasters are common because disasters are easy to recall. If the mind can quickly picture a bad outcome, it starts to believe the outcome is likely. Catastrophizing also hides in the sound of thoughts. The mind may read other people's thoughts without proof. It may decide that one failure ruins a whole future. It may turn "this is hard" into "this is impossible." These jumps happen quickly, like a reflex. Over time, the habit shapes behavior. A person may avoid a phone call because it might bring bad news. A person may delay a doctor visit because the fear feels too big. Avoidance gives short relief, and that relief teaches the brain that the fear was correct. The loop grows stronger. Relationships can get pulled into this loop. Someone might scan a partner's tone again and again, searching for signs of danger. Someone might ask for reassurance in a way that never feels like enough. Someone might pull away first to avoid being left. None of this comes from cruelty. It comes from a nervous system that expects loss. The habit often comes with self-judgment. The person may think, "Why can't the mind just stop?" That judgment adds a second threat on top of the first. Now there is fear of the future and shame about the fear. A calmer approach starts with a different question. Instead of arguing with the mind, it helps to ask what the mind is trying to protect. Usually it is protecting something important: safety, belonging, health, reputation, love. The scary story is a clumsy attempt to keep those needs from being hurt again. Once the purpose is seen, the pattern can be interrupted. The first step is noticing the moment the story begins, like catching the first spark before it becomes a fire. A person might name it quietly. This is catastrophizing. Naming does not erase fear, but it creates a small distance between the thinker and the thought. Then the body needs a cue that it is safe enough right now. Slow exhaling signals the nervous system to downshift. Feeling feet on the floor and noticing the room brings attention back to the present. The brain cannot fully live in a future disaster while also paying close attention to the chair, the light, and the sounds in the room. After the body settles even a little, the mind can do a simple check. What is known for sure, and what is guessed? What facts exist and what meaning was added? A short email is a fact. The job is at risk is a guess. A headache is a fact. This is something terrible is a guess. This check is not about positive thinking, it is about accurate thinking. The mind can also be guided to widen the story. If the brain insists on imagining the worst, it can be asked to imagine 2 other realistic outcomes as well. Maybe the friend is busy. Maybe the manager is rushed. Maybe the body is tired. The goal is not to force a happy ending. The goal is to remind the brain that the future has more than one path. Small actions help more than long debates. Sending a clear text, asking one honest question, or taking one practical step gives the brain real data. Data calms the threat system. The brain relaxes when it learns that it can handle the next step, even if the final outcome is unknown. With practice, catastrophizing becomes easier to spot. It still shows up during stress, change, or loss, but it loses power when it is treated as a signal, not a prophecy. Fear becomes information, not instruction. The turning point comes when a person realizes what catastrophizing truly is. It is not a broken brain. It is not a character flaw. It is a smoke alarm set too sensitive. It was built to notice smoke, not to measure how big the fire is. And it can get jumpy when life is loud. A smoke alarm is meant to protect a home. It makes noise when there is real danger. But if it goes off every time someone makes toast, it does not mean the house is doomed. It means the alarm needs a different response. The noise is still loud. The body still jumps. Yet the right move is not to smash the alarm or pretend it is quiet. The right move is to check for fire, open a window, and watch the smoke clear. Catastrophizing works the same way. The mind treats imagination like evidence. It confuses "this could happen" with "this is happening." When that is seen, the future disaster loses its authority. The thought is still there, but it becomes one thought among many. The person can hold fear and facts at the same time. The nervous system can learn that protection does not require panic, and readiness does not require a tragedy story. After that realization, life does not become perfectly calm. The brain will still jump sometimes. Late replies will still sting. Strange sensations in the body will still grab attention. Big changes will still wake up old fears. That is normal for a mind built to predict. What changes is the relationship with the fear. Instead of being dragged into the worst-case movie, a person can learn to pause at the first scene. The pause might be only 2 seconds, but in those 2 seconds, the body can soften its shoulders. The breath can slow. The mind can remember that uncertainty is not the same as danger. Some days, the brain will ask for reassurance again and again. Some days, it will not believe the calmer story. On those days, the goal is not to win an argument inside the head. The goal is to stay present while the alarm rings, to take one small step, and to let time provide the missing information. Because the mind does not need a perfect future to feel safer. It needs proof, over and over, that it can meet the next moment without turning it into the end of everything. And that quiet proof often arrives in the space right before the mind decides what it means.
You ever sit there, mind full of plans, ideas, goals, and still do nothing? You see the vision crystal clear, yet your hands won't move. Here's the twist. You're not unmotivated. You're lazy, but ambitious. That rare mix of big dreams and frozen action. It's not that you lack drive. It's that your ambition is so large it paralyzes you. You're not low on motivation. You're drowning in it. So, in this video, we're going to expose what really hides behind that lazy label, why ambition can freeze you instead of fuel you, and what causes that invisible burnout between dreaming and doing, and how to turn all that potential into movement. Because once you understand the mechanics behind the paralysis, you'll realize something powerful. You were never lazy. You were just overloaded by your own drive. Here's what most people get wrong. The people who call themselves lazy are often the ones that care the most. They think so much about what could be that they get stuck imagining instead of acting. Studies on self-discipline and procrastination reveal this exact paradox. People with big goals often delay action, not out of apathy, but because they're overthinking and emotionally overloaded. A 2023 study found that people with high self-control procrastinate less, not because they're always motivated, but because they've trained themselves not to wait to feel ready. They start before inspiration arrives. So, when you're ambitious but idle, the problem isn't desire, it's the weight of it. You're carrying too much vision for your current momentum. That tension, wanting more, doing less, creates an emotional friction. And that guilt spiral that follows, that's the part that kills you. You don't feel useless because you are. You feel useless because your brain confuses not acting yet with not capable. But capacity isn't the issue. Friction is. You've probably said it before. I'm just lazy. But here's the truth. Laziness is a cover story your brain tells to avoid discomfort. Psychologists define procrastination not as a time problem, but as an emotional regulation problem. It's not about the task itself, it's about how the task feels. When something feels overwhelming, your brain protects you by reaching for something easier. A scroll, a snack, a nap. That isn't a lack of willpower, it's emotional avoidance disguised as rest. Neuroscience explains it like this. Your emotional brain wants comfort now, while your logical brain wants progress later. The stronger your long-term vision, the louder that clash becomes. So, if you're ambitious yet stagnant, it's not that you're lazy, it's that your brain is dodging the emotional discomfort of caring deeply. The solution isn't more willpower, it's learning to lower the emotional weight of starting. For most lazy but ambitious people, the real block is hidden perfectionism. You imagine the finished version so vividly that the first version feels like a failure. You think, I'll start when I can do it right. But waiting becomes a habit, and perfection becomes paralysis. A 2024 review on procrastination and goal formation found that people delay most when the goal feels too vague or too big. The brain treats unclear or high-stakes tasks as threats, triggering the same avoidance loop as fear. And so the gap widens between I'll do it soon and I've started. That's the execution gap. And every overthought moment stretches it further. The only way to close it is structure, not speed. Don't say, I'll write my book. Say, I'll open the document and type one line. Because motion beats motivation. Even the smallest start breaks fear faster than any pep talk could. And when that motion repeats, identity shifts from dreamer to doer. Here's the brain hack no one teaches. Your mind overestimates the pain of starting and underestimates the reward of progress. That's why you keep waiting for the right time. But there is no right time, only the moment you choose to begin. Neuroscientists studying task initiation found that just 2 minutes of action activates dopamine circuits linked to motivation. That's the action feedback loop, the mechanism where effort itself creates momentum. Open the laptop, draft one line, send one message. Each small act tells your brain, we've started. The momentum isn't built in leaps, it's built in loops. That's why micro habits outperform massive plans. You don't need a perfect morning routine. You need one move that proves to your nervous system that forward is possible. You don't need to feel motivated to move. You need to move to feel motivated. Here's the trap. You keep waiting to feel ready. But readiness is a byproduct of rhythm. Motivation burns bright, but it burns out fast. Systems, though, are engines. They keep running, whether you feel inspired or not. Studies on self-control and decision fatigue show that people who rely on consistent routines perform better and burn out less. Why? Because structure removes the emotional noise of constant choice. When your days run on rails, fixed wake times, clear work blocks, defined priorities, your brain stops arguing with itself. Energy that used to go into deciding now goes into doing. It's less about discipline and more about strategy. If checking your phone kills your focus, leave it in another room. If big projects intimidate you, start with 5-minute warm-ups instead of perfect hours. Psychologists call this context engineering, designing your environment so discipline isn't a daily battle. And here's the irony: systems don't limit freedom, they create it. Once you break inertia, something deeper starts to change. You stop trying to be productive. You become productive. Each completed task whispers, "I follow through." Each small step forward shifts how you see yourself. Behavior builds belief. Consistency reshapes confidence. Studies consistently show that people high in conscientiousness outperform even those with higher IQs, because intelligence means little without follow-through. That's the part most overlook. Being clever doesn't move you forward. Being consistent does. And when consistency meets ambition, you stop living in your head and start building in the world. That's when lazy dies. Not because you burned out, but because you aligned effort with identity. You stop chasing motivation. You become the person who doesn't need it. So remember this: you were never unmotivated. You were just lazy but ambitious. A mind built for greatness, trapped in idleness. Ambition was never your enemy. Waiting was. The cure isn't to push harder. It's to start smaller, steadier, smarter. Because once motion begins, momentum does the rest. And the day you stop waiting for the right time, that's the day your real life starts moving.
The psychology of regrets shows how to let go of what-ifs. Have you ever asked yourself a question that will not leave you alone, even years later? Something simple but sharp. Something like, what if I had chosen differently? That question lives at the heart of the psychology of regrets. We all feel regret, but few of us understand what it really is, why it hits so hard, and how to let the weight of the past fall off our backs. Today, you'll see why the mind clings to what if, why some regrets last longer than others, and how you can loosen their grip before they shape your future. Because once you understand the science of regret, you understand how to escape it. You might think regret is only sadness or disappointment, but the truth is far sharper. Regret is the clash between the life you lived and the life you imagine you could have lived. Psychologists call that counterfactual thinking, the brain's habit of building a second version of your past and comparing it to your real one. This comparison is why regret stings. It's not just emotion. It is the mind judging your choices and announcing that the alternate version looks better. When people talk about regret psychology or emotional regret, this is what they mean. The story your brain creates, then punishes you for. Regret lands hardest when you have real control over the outcome. A choice you made, a step you didn't take, a chance you ignored. The brain marks those moments as your fault, even when you acted with the information you had. That mix of emotion and judgment is what traps people. And once you see that, the next layer becomes clearer. Some regrets hit like a bruise you barely notice. Others feel like a knife that never stops digging. Why the difference? Because the deepest regrets come from the things we didn't do. Missed chances stay with people longer than mistakes they actually made. Doing something and failing gives you a full story. Not doing something gives you an unfinished one. And unfinished stories keep the brain busy. This is why so many lifelong regrets fall into the same areas. Love we did not pursue, dreams we waited too long to try, paths we were scared to follow. These are not small losses. They touch identity, hope, and meaning. They matter. And the more something matters, the more the mind replays it. But here's the part most people don't see until much later. Regret is not just emotional pain. It reshapes your mind and rewires your body from the inside out. When regret turns into rumination, it drains you. You keep replaying the same scene, the same choice, the same moment. constant. The loop raises stress levels, increases anxiety, and makes the world feel heavier than it is. People think they are reflecting, but they are reliving. Your brain treats the memory like a living threat. Your body responds with tension, tight breath, and a quiet sense of defeat that sits on your chest. If you notice you are tired even on calm days, that may be why. The mind is carrying a weight that the present moment did not create. And the danger is simple. Regret steals energy from the life you're trying to build right now. But here is the turn most people do not expect. Regret is not only damage. In the right conditions, it becomes direction. Some regrets push people to change, to grow, to try again with more courage. That is the useful side of the psychology of regret. It shows that regret can sharpen your values and teach you what truly matters. Regret can help you see the gap between the life you want and the life you are living. It can help you correct your course. It can help you be honest about what you want, maybe for the first time. But none of that happens when regret is heavy, loud, and painful. It only happens when regret is processed, not avoided. And that processing starts with a shift that is easier than it sounds. First, acknowledge it. Most people push regret away or pretend it does not affect them. But ignored regret grows in the dark. Calling it by name softens its power. You shift from being controlled by the feeling to observing it. Next, be kind to yourself in the moments you wish you had been wiser. Self-blame feels like the responsible thing, but it never leads to change. Self-compassion does. Treating your past self like someone who tried, not someone who failed, opens the door to growth. Third, reframe the story. This is not rewriting the past. It is seeing it from the angle you missed while you were hurting. Instead of, I ruined everything, it becomes, I learned something valuable. Instead of, I was stupid, it becomes, I did what I could at the time. Reframing is not denial. It is a balance. The fourth is to act if action is possible. Some regrets can be softened by reaching out, rebuilding, reopening a dream you left behind, or making amends. Action breaks the loop. It tells the brain, we are not stuck. But when action is not possible, when the moment is gone, letting go means shifting your focus forward. Not forgetting, but releasing. That release is a skill, and it gets easier with practice. These tools are not quick fixes. They are long-term rewires. They slowly change how your mind talks to itself, how it handles mistakes, and how it carries the past. But one more shift completes the picture, and it may be the most important one. The people who feel the least regret are not the ones who make the best choices. They are the ones who expect less perfection from themselves. They stop demanding the perfect option. They choose what is good enough and what fits their values instead of what earns approval. This mindset lowers regret because it lowers pressure. The goal stops being, I must choose perfectly, and becomes, I will choose honestly. The next step is to shift attention to the present. Regret lives in the past, but your power lives here. People who stay anchored in their current reality ruminate less because their mind has something real to hold on to. And finally, see your story as a full story, the hard parts included. Growth is a messy, necessary chaos. It's what pushes you forward. Regret tries to freeze you in time, but the moment you choose motion, even slow motion, it loosens its grip. When you start living with intention, your regrets stop defining you. Instead, it starts informing you. And with that shift, you step into a life that moves forward instead of circles back. Maybe that is the point we miss while we're busy running from the past. Regret is not the enemy. It is the signal. And the moment you listen to what it is trying to teach you, the moment you stop letting it punish you, something shifts. The past loses its bite. Your story regains its shape. And the question, what if, becomes something lighter, a shadow you can walk past instead of a burden you carry. Because what if the thing you regret the most is the thing that sets you free?
What if the voice that says not good enough is not telling the truth, but trying to keep a person safe? Perfectionism can look like high standards, strong work, and careful choices, and people may even praise it. Underneath, it can feel like a tight chest, a busy mind, and a fear of being found out. This story follows how that fear turns goals into a moving target, how mistakes start to feel dangerous, and why rest can feel undeserved. Staying to the end matters because the never enough feeling can start to make sense, not as a flaw, but as a pattern that was learned for a reason. When the pattern becomes clear, the trap can loosen, and a person can begin to breathe in a different way, even if life still looks the same on the outside. Mara wakes up before the alarm. The first thought is not about breakfast. It is about what was missed. An email that might sound wrong. A meeting where one sentence could have been better. A list that never feels finished. On the outside, Mara looks solid. Deadlines get met. Details get caught. People trust the work. Inside, the day feels like walking on thin glass. One crack, and everything could fall through. That fear is the start of the perfection trap. It is not a love of excellence. It is a fear of being seen as less. Psychologists often separate healthy striving from perfectionism. Healthy striving aims for growth and meaning. It leaves room for learning. Perfectionism aims for safety. It tries to avoid shame, blame, or rejection. The goal is not to do well. The goal is to never do wrong. That is why perfectionism does not settle after a win. Praise can feel nice for a moment. Then the mind asks, what is next? If the bar is high, it gets raised. If the bar is reached, it moves again. The feeling of good enough does not land because safety is never fully proven. Many people learn this pattern early. Some grew up with love that felt tied to performance. A good grade brought warmth. A mistake brought lectures or cold distance. Others grew up around chaos. In an unpredictable home, being perfect can feel like a way to reduce harm. Some were praised for being the responsible one, and the role became a mask that could not slip. Over time, the mind builds hidden rules. Never disappoint. Never need help. Never be ordinary. These rules may not be spoken, but they shape choices. Mara says yes to extra tasks. Mara fixes tiny errors that nobody else would notice. Mara rewrites a message again and again, then feels ashamed for caring so much, then rewrites it again. This is not vanity. It is a threat response. The brain is built to spot danger fast. For some people, mistakes start to feel like danger. A small error can wake the same alarm system that would respond to a real threat. The body tightens. The mind scans for what could go wrong. In that moment, perfectionism feels like a shield. The inner critic often becomes the voice of that shield. It sounds harsh on purpose. It says, do more. Do not mess this up. The critic usually believes it is helping. If Mara stays tense, maybe Mara will stay sharp. If Mara stays afraid, maybe Mara will stay safe. The critic does not know that fear can shrink creativity and steal sleep. It only knows that fear gets results. Then the trap gets rewarded. People call Mara so disciplined. They ask for more. The praise feels good, but it also tightens the mask. If being valued depends on being perfect, then resting feels risky. Saying no feels risky. Even joy can feel risky because joy relaxes the guard. In this state, time starts to bend. A simple task can take hours. Mara edits a slide deck late at night. The work improves, but the process turns punishing. The mind searches for one weak spot. That is all or nothing thinking. In that style of thinking, one flaw becomes a full failure. Perfectionism also loves certainty. It wants the future to be predictable. It wants other people to respond in a certain way. But life does not offer that kind of control. A strong project can still be criticized. A kind message can still be misunderstood. When certainty is not possible, the mind grabs for control in smaller places. It checks and rechecks. It delays sending anything until it feels ready, even when ready never arrives. This is where perfectionism and procrastination link up. Waiting can feel safer than being seen. Social comparison adds fuel. It is easy to see other people's finished work and forget the messy middle. A feed shows polished photos and clean results. Mara scrolls and feels a drop in the stomach. The mind turns comparison into a verdict. Someone else looks better, so Mara must be behind. And if Mara is behind, then Mara is not enough. Under all of this sits a deeper belief. Worth must be earned. Belonging must be proven. In that belief, everything becomes a test. The mind keeps trying to pass by working harder, checking more, and aiming higher. Breaking the perfection trap starts with seeing what perfectionism is trying to do. It is trying to prevent pain. It is trying to avoid shame. It is trying to earn belonging. Once that is seen, a person can keep the need for safety while changing the method. Mara begins with small experiments, not big promises. One day, an email gets written once and sent after a short pause. The body predicts disaster. Then nothing happens. Another day, a report is finished with one sentence left a little rough. The critic complains, but the complaint becomes a sound, not a command. A second shift happens when standards get separated from identity. A standard can be high. A person does not have to be on trial. The work can be edited. The self does not need to be attacked. The brain needs repeated proof of that difference. Mara also starts to notice the cost. Extra polish steals sleep. Extra control steals time with friends. Extra checking steals trust and memory. When the cost becomes clear, the mind has a reason to choose differently. Slowly, the question changes. Instead of, is it perfect, the question becomes, is it true to the purpose? Instead of, will everyone approve, the question becomes, is this aligned with what matters? Fear does not vanish, it just stops running the whole show. And still, the never-enough feeling tries to return. It shows up after praise, it shows up in quiet rooms. That is when the final piece starts to form, the piece that can flip the pattern in a calm but lasting way. One afternoon, a small mistake slips through. A number in a report is off. It gets noticed in a meeting. The room pauses. Mara feels the old heat rise fast. The mind rushes to the usual story. This is it, the moment everything collapses. But something different happens. Nobody laughs, nobody storms out. A colleague points to the line, and the group fixes it. The meeting moves on. Later, Mara waits for the shame to fade. But the shame is not the only thing present. There is also a strange detail. The body is still here. The relationships are still here. The world did not demand perfection to keep going. That is the crack where the trap starts to break. The never good enough voice is not proof of failure. It is a safety alarm built from old lessons. It rings loudest when the stakes feel social, when approval feels like survival. Perfectionism is the mind's attempt to buy belonging with flawless performance. But belonging is not something that can be purchased with error-free work. It is something that grows in truth, in repair, and in being seen while still unfinished. When Mara sees that, the critic does not vanish. It softens. It sounds less like a judge and more like fear asking for reassurance. After that day, life does not turn gentle all at once. The old habits still show up. Mara still feels the pull to overcheck, to overexplain, to stay late. The difference is that the pull gets noticed sooner. It is easier to name it as fear, not truth. Some evenings, Mara closes a laptop with one task still undone. The room is a bit too quiet. The mind wants to reopen the screen and chase the last loose thread. Instead, Mara sits with the discomfort and watches it move through the body like weather. It rises, it peaks, it passes. There is no final moment where a person is declared enough forever. There are only choices made in small, ordinary minutes. A draft sent while still imperfect, a rest taken without earning it, a mistake met with repair instead of self-hate. The voice that once sounded like a verdict can start to sound like a question, and sometimes it even sounds like a child asking if it is safe to stop. And in that softer space, the bar does not disappear, but it stops chasing, and something quieter begins to matter. Something that cannot be measured, something that simply sits beside the work and waits, like a door left slightly open, like breath returning, like the sense that being human might be allowed.
Have you ever wondered why some people feel more alive the moment they close their own front door? Not bored, not lonely, just grounded. Like the world finally makes sense again. For people who love staying at home, that moment isn't rare. It's their everyday reality. While others chase noise, crowds, and plans, they find their spark in stillness, comfort, and the quiet rhythm of their own space. So what makes staying at home feel so good for them? Why do some people recharge in solitude while others drain in it? And how does choosing a home sanctuary actually lead to a happier, clearer, more intentional life than constantly going out? Let's pull back the curtain on a world most people never slow down long enough to understand. Some people step into a crowded place and feel their energy drain like a battery on red. Others walk into the living room and feel it rise. That's because many home-first people have a brain that works better in stable, low-stimulation environments. Psychologists studying sensory processing found that people with more sensitive nervous systems absorb details more intensely, such as lights, sounds, movement, and even social cues. For them, the outside world isn't exciting. It's loud, it's busy, it's too much. At home, the noise drops, their thoughts sharpen, their breathing slows, the stress chemicals fade. The brain switches from overload to control. This isn't shyness or laziness. This is biology. It's the same reason some animals survive better in calm habitats, while others chase chaos. People with this wiring operate their best when the environment supports their nervous system instead of attacking it. And once you understand that, staying home stops looking like hiding and starts looking like a lineman. But there's another layer people miss. It's not just about shutting the world out. It's about what staying in lets them access. There's a moment many homebodies know well. The door closes, the world quiets, and the mind finally clicks into place. Not loneliness, clarity. Psychologists call this restorative solitude. It's the kind of alone time that resets the emotional system, boosts creativity, and strengthens decision-making. People who love staying home experience a deeper version of it because they don't treat solitude as punishment. They treat it as fuel. When they're alone, the brain isn't scanning for social cues or managing small talk. It's free. And something else happens. Inner voices get louder than outer opinions. That's why people who enjoy staying at home often know themselves better. They hear their real thoughts without noise drowning them out. They sense what they want, what they don't, and who they are when no one's watching. Research shows that this kind of attentive solitude increases emotional regulation, meaning homebodies recover from stress faster and make calmer choices in conflicts. It's not that they're avoiding life. It's that they're strengthening the part of themselves that shows up when life hits them back. Still, it's not just the emotional benefits that make this lifestyle powerful. There's a practical side people overlook, and it changes everything. The outside world is anything but certain. Crowds, traffic, noise, expectations, costs. But the moment someone steps into their own cozy living space, everything becomes predictable. They control the temperature, the lighting, the sounds, and the pace. That control builds something many people struggle to maintain: mental efficiency. When the environment is predictable, the brain wastes less energy reacting, which means more energy for focus, creativity, and strategy. And then there's the financial part. People who enjoy their domestic lifestyle naturally avoid the constant spending on drinks, rides, food, events, and clothes that come with going out. Their fun doesn't require an entry fee. Their peace isn't tied to a place that charges by the hour. They also conserve emotional energy. No forced conversations, no awkward social loops, no pretending. That saved energy becomes fuel for their own interests, projects, hobbies, and personal growth. Where others burn out from constant stimulation, home-first people build stability. Where others chase novelty for a dopamine spike, they create deep, lasting enjoyment. And that's why the stay-at-home personality isn't a limitation. It's a strategic lifestyle, one built on peace, intention, and self-direction. But what they do with that peace, that's where the story gets even more interesting. Certain people need constant noise just to feel alive. Homebodies don't. They come alive when the world gets quiet enough for their mind to start working at full depth. When someone spends more time in their own sanctuary, something rare happens. Their interests stop being shallow hobbies and start becoming long-form passions. There's no rush, no interruption, no pressure to perform. They can dive into coding for 3 hours straight, or lose themselves in a book, or even build a craft skill. Psychologists call this deep focus immersion, the state where attention narrows and creativity expands. It shows up more in calm, controlled environments than in public ones, where constant interruptions break concentration before it even forms. People who love staying at home master this state with ease. Not because they're special, but because their environment actually supports it. This is why so many writers, artists, engineers, analysts, and hobby-driven thinkers thrive in solitude. Home becomes a workshop for the mind, a place where scattered thoughts finally land and stay still long enough to grow. And even if the world doesn't see the progress, homebodies feel it every single day. But their life isn't just built on inner depth. Their way of connecting with others is just as unique. and just as misunderstood. The stereotype says staying home means being antisocial. But in reality, home-focused people can have stronger relationships than anyone else. Why? Because they don't spread their time thin. They don't bounce from circle to circle trying to fit in. They choose carefully, intentionally, and they show up fully for the people they trust. There's no performance, no mask, and no social exhaustion that forces them to withdraw. When they talk, it's meaningful. When they listen, it's attentive. When they care, it's real, not something done out of obligation. Their friendships often form around shared routines, things like home dinners, long conversations, movie nights, game nights, and creative sessions. These aren't backup plans. They're the kind of slow, comfortable interactions that build emotional closeness faster than any loud night out. And here's the part most people overlook. Because homebodies pace their social energy, they avoid burnout. Their connections last longer. They don't disappear, ghost, or run out of steam. They build relationships the same way they build their inner world, steadily, deeply, and with their full heart present. But the most surprising part of this lifestyle isn't the peace, or the focus, or even the relationships. It's the sense of power it gives them. Choosing to stay at home in a world that pressures you to go out isn't a weakness. It's autonomy. Most people don't realize how much of their life is shaped by outside noise, trends, comparison, fear of missing out, and social pressure. But people who love their cozy living rhythm move differently. They choose based on internal signals, not external ones. At home, they build routines that protect their mental health. They create order when the world feels chaotic. They learn to enjoy their own company instead of fearing silence. And behind that, something powerful forms. A solid identity. One that doesn't bend every time the world changes direction. They aren't running from discomfort. They're choosing clarity and control. They're choosing a life that actually fits their nervous system, their energy, and their sense of meaning. This is why homebodies often seem calm under stress. Their inner life is anchored, and that strength doesn't look loud. It looks steady. And that's the part the world almost always misjudges. People chase the world because they're scared of sitting with themselves. Homebodies aren't. They face the quiet and find a life inside that most people never slow down long enough to see.
What does it mean when someone never posts, even when life is clearly happening? Some people share birthdays, trips, and tiny daily wins like a running story. Others stay quiet and only watch. That quiet can look like secrecy or sadness from the outside, but it often comes from something more normal, a need for privacy, a dislike of attention, or a wish to feel life before showing it. This narration follows the psychology behind the silent profile, from simple boundaries to deeper fears, until the silence looks less like absence and more like a choice. Understanding that difference matters because silence is judged fast, and the wrong guess can create distance that never needed to exist. A person who does not post still lives in a world that rewards being seen. Online spaces run on signals. A photo says, "This happened." A caption says, "This matters." Over time, a feed can start to feel like proof that a person is happy, loved, successful, or at least interesting. For some people, that feels fun. For others, it feels like standing under a bright light. One reason is self-presentation. Everyone manages impressions a little. In real life, it happens through tone, timing, and body language. Online, it happens through pictures and words that stay up. A single post can feel like a permanent label. A person may think, if this goes up, it becomes part of who this person is. That can feel heavy, especially for people who change a lot inside and do not want an old version of the self pinned to the wall. Misunderstanding makes that heavier. Online, tone is easy to miss. Context is missing. A joke can look mean. A proud moment can look like bragging. A quiet person may have learned through experience that being visible can bring the wrong kind of attention. Silence becomes a way to avoid being misread. Then there is the blended audience problem. In real life, a person speaks differently to friends, family, and coworkers. Online, those groups mix into one crowded room. A post that feels normal to friends might feel strange to a boss. A photo that feels sweet to a partner might feel too personal to a parent. When the audience is too mixed, the brain can freeze. The safest message becomes no message. Not posting can also be about control. Posting invites feedback, and feedback teaches behavior. Likes, comments, and views are small rewards. The brain notices what gets a reaction. Without meaning to, a person can start choosing what to share based on what performs well. Soon, life can feel like it is being arranged for the audience. Some people notice that shift and pull back. It is not because they hate people. It is because they hate how it feels to be trained. They want moments to stay private, not measured. They want a sunset to be a sunset, not a post that needs a caption. For other people, attention itself feels intense. Being seen can feel like being touched. Even kind comments can feel invasive because they come from people who were not invited into the moment. A person might enjoy closeness, but only in small rooms with trusted people. A public feed feels like a stage, and a stage asks for a performance. Introversion can add to that. Introversion is not disliking people. It is about how energy is used. Posting can feel like being on for a long time because the social moment does not end when the post goes up. Replies arrive later. People bring it up later. Messages arrive from strangers or distant acquaintances. For a mind that needs quiet to recharge, that lingering social noise can feel draining. Anxiety can show up in quiet profiles too. Some people fear criticism, which is easy to understand. But some also fear praise. Praise can create pressure. A post that does well can raise the bar. Then the next post feels like a test. For a person with social anxiety, even a friendly reaction can feel like a spotlight that will return again. Perfectionism often sits nearby. The photo is not good enough. The caption sounds wrong. The timing is awkward. From the outside, it can look like high standards. Underneath, it is often fear of judgment. Perfectionism whispers, if it is not perfect, it is not safe. Silence avoids the risk completely. Social comparison also plays a role. Scrolling can turn into a quiet contest, even when nobody says it out loud. A person compares a normal day to other people's best moments. Over time, that can create envy, shame, or a sense of falling behind. Some people respond by posting more to keep up. Others step away to protect mood and focus. Not posting can be an act of self-care, especially for people who notice that comparison makes them harsher with themselves. Values matter as well. Some people do not want loved ones turned into content. They do not want a partner, a child, or a friend used as proof of a good life. They may have seen how quickly strangers judge from a distance. A relationship becomes perfect or fake. A parent becomes right or wrong. Silence can be a way to keep what is precious out of the opinion machine. Practical safety can be part of it too. Some jobs require privacy. Some people have been stalked or harassed. Some have learned that too much detail online can bring problems later. A digital footprint can feel like a trail that never fades. For a cautious person, not posting is not shyness, it is risk management. And sometimes silence is connected to pain. A person may stop posting during a breakup, a loss, or a difficult season, not because life ended, but because the public version of life no longer fits. Posting invites questions. It invites comments that may not land well. Silence gives space to feel things without explaining. This is where it helps to look at the feeling under the behavior. Chosen silence tends to feel calm. It feels like a boundary. Fear-based silence tends to feel tight. It feels like hiding. From the outside, both look the same. From the inside, they are different worlds. That difference shows up in a small moment many people know. A person opens an app. A photo is chosen. The caption bar waits. Fingers hover. Then the hand pauses, and a question shows up. Who is this for? Sometimes the answer is simple. It is for connection. It is for sharing joy with friends far away. But sometimes the answer is uncomfortable. It is for relief. It is for proving something. It is for calming a worry that says, if nobody sees it, it does not count. That pause is the turning point. In that pause, some people realize that the post is not about sharing at all. It is about being safe in other people's eyes. It is about not being forgotten. It is about making life feel real by turning it into evidence. And that is when the meaning of silence changes. Not posting, for many people, is not a sign of emptiness. It is a boundary around attention and identity. It protects a life from becoming a display. It pulls the spotlight off the self and back onto the moment. It keeps experiences from being edited while they are still happening. It lets joy be quiet. It lets grief be private. It lets love be real without an audience. But silence is not always simple. Staying invisible can create distance too. Friends may assume the quiet person is not around. Invitations can fade. Misunderstandings can grow. The quiet person may even worry late at night that silence is being read as coldness. So the question becomes gentler and more honest. Does sharing feel like connection, or does it feel like pressure? Does posting add warmth to relationships, or does it steal peace from the mind? Does silence feel like freedom, or does it feel like fear? Sometimes the clearest answer appears after the phone is set down. The room returns. The breath slows. A small sound, like a fan or distant traffic, becomes noticeable again. The mind stops performing. The moment stops asking to be translated into a caption. And in that quiet, there is no need to offer more updates, more highlights, more proof for an invisible crowd. There is only the possibility that a life can be full without being displayed, and that a person can be close without being constantly seen, and that the next time the thumb hovers over post, the question that matters might simply be whether the moment wants to be shown at all.
Be honest. When was the last time you posted something online, then couldn't stop checking your phone? Every refresh feels like a heartbeat. One more like, one more comment, a tiny hit of proof that you still matter. That's the quiet addiction nobody talks about. The need for validation, the invisible hunger that makes you measure your worth in hearts, thumbs up, and numbers that vanish overnight. But what's really happening in your brain when you chase approval? Why does it feel so good, then leave you empty? And how can you take back control without shutting yourself off from the world? We are about to find out. Every time someone likes your post, your brain releases a quick spark of dopamine, the same chemical that fires when you win money or eat something sweet. It rewards the behavior and wires you to repeat it. That's why the scroll post refresh cycle feels automatic. Your brain wasn't designed for social media. It was designed to keep you alive. And long before the internet, survival meant belonging. Getting approval once meant safety in a tribe. Today, it just means someone tapped your photo. But to your brain, it's all the same. The more feedback you get, the more your reward circuits expect it. And soon, you're no longer sharing to connect. You're posting to prove. That's how the social media validation loop takes hold. You start chasing symbols of acceptance instead of real connection. But here's the twist. The more you depend on others to validate you, the weaker your own sense of self becomes. And that leads us straight to the real cost. At first, getting approval feels like winning, but it's a hollow victory. The moment it fades, your brain demands more, and you start giving your peace away in pieces. Every time you post something to see if people still care, you hand over control of your self-esteem. Psychologists call this approval-seeking behavior, a pattern linked to lower confidence, anxiety, and even emotional exhaustion. People who depend on likes or praise start overanalyzing every silence. A lack of response feels like rejection, and rejection feels like failure. And the algorithm knows that. It feeds the highs and starves you with the lows, just enough to keep you hooked. The worst part? You can't tell where you end and other people's opinions begin. You're not living, you're putting on a show. Nobody chooses to depend on approval. It happens slowly. Maybe you grew up hearing, "Good job," only when you met someone else's standards. Maybe somewhere along the way, you learned that love came with conditions. Those patterns stick. You start confusing attention with affection, applause with acceptance, and when life moves online, that craving multiplies. Each notification whispers, "You're enough for now." And that, for now, keeps you chasing. Researchers link this to external approval dependency, a loop where your worth is always one compliment away from collapse. Because when your value depends on validation, you'll do almost anything to get it. Filter your truth, shrink your opinions, even silence yourself. The truth? You can't find lasting confidence in other people's reactions. The moment you start searching for validation, you've already told yourself you don't have it. And that's where the real work begins, breaking the cycle before it breaks you. How do you know if the social media validation loop has its grip on you? You don't need a therapist to see it. The signs are obvious. You post something and wait. You refresh again and again. Your mood rises with notifications and drops when they stop. You delete posts that didn't perform. You compare numbers. You edit your life for optics instead of honesty. That's the giveaway. Your emotions follow engagement, not experience. It's the same psychology as gambling. Unpredictable awards keep you hooked longer than consistent ones. You never know when the next like will hit, so you keep playing. And while it looks harmless, it isn't. Every click teaches your brain that validation equals safety. But here's the problem. You can't control other people's attention, and that means you've handed control of your peace to people who barely know you. So what do you do when you can't stop chasing approval, but you're tired of feeling small? You build something stronger. Breaking the need for validation doesn't mean going off grid. It means changing where your sense of worth comes from. First, recognize the trigger. Notice when you reach for your phone just to check who noticed you. That tiny pause, that's power. Second, limit feedback exposure. Turn off preview notifications. Set scroll windows. Create space between impulse and action. Then build what psychologists call internal validation. The ability to approve of yourself before anyone else does. Start small. Keep promises to yourself. Do hard things quietly. When you say, "I did that because it matters to me," not because it'll be seen, that's freedom. It's not about being immune to feedback. It's about not being defined by it. Every time you act from integrity instead of insecurity, you train your brain to value authenticity over applause. And once you feel that kind of control, something radical happens. When you stop chasing approval, people notice. You talk slower, you listen better, you stop rushing to fill the silence, because silence no longer feels like rejection. This is self-worth beyond likes. The state where your peace isn't up for public vote. It doesn't mean you no longer care about relationships. It means you connect without performance, respect without begging, love without proving. Ironically, the moment you stop needing validation, you become someone others naturally respect. Because confidence without approval is rare. And that's the real power. You gain back the authority you once gave away, one like at a time. The screen fades, no notifications, just you, breathing. No one's watching, no one's clapping, and for the first time, it's enough.
10 signs of self-centered people you didn't know. You've probably crossed paths with someone who seemed perfectly kind at first glance. Grounded, charming, even thoughtful. But slowly you start to feel drained around them. Like every interaction is pulled toward their center of gravity. What you think, what you feel, what you need. It all gets pushed to the edges. That's the quiet design of truly self-centered people. They don't reveal themselves through obvious arrogance. Their patterns hide behind politeness, compliments, and casual conversation, so well disguised that you don't recognize the truth until the emotional cost shows up. Today, we're going deeper into the 10 signs of self-centered people you didn't know. The subtle markers psychology links to egocentric behavior, self-absorption, and attention-seeking traits that many people overlook until it's too late. And the first sign is the one most people misread as confidence, when it's really the opposite. 1. The fragile ego behind their confidence. Self-centered people often carry themselves as if they're effortlessly above the crowd, sure of their opinions, certain of their abilities, unshakably secure. But that sense of superiority isn't rooted in strength. It's balancing something delicate. You can see it in the way their demeanor shifts the moment attention drifts away from them. A room that isn't focused on them suddenly feels hostile. A neutral expression becomes rejection. A small accomplishment by someone else registers as a personal threat. Psychologists describe this tension as the hallmark of a fragile ego, a self-image polished on the outside but unstable underneath. They aren't confident, they're performing with confidence. And the pressure of holding that performance together drives almost everything that follows. Because when someone's identity depends on how they're perceived, they start searching for a very specific kind of fuel. 2. Their need for admiration becomes emotional oxygen. With a self-centered person, attention isn't enjoyable, it's necessary. They may not check in on you, think about you, or consider your needs for long stretches of time. But the moment they want a connection, they expect it instantly and completely. Their sense of worth rises and falls based on external validation. A compliment steadies them. A moment of disinterest destabilizes them. And any shift in the emotional environment feels like a shift in their personal value. This hunger doesn't show up as loud demand. It seeps into conversations. They guide the discussion back to their accomplishments, their stresses, and their victories. Not to share, but to feel anchored. Over time, this dependency narrows their emotional awareness. They're not asking how you feel because they're monitoring something else, whether they're being affirmed. And that's when the next hidden pattern appears. 3. Their empathy only exists when it benefits them. Most people recognize emotional signals. A sad tone, a worried expression, a tired posture. But self-centered individuals filter everything through a simple, unspoken equation. Does this affect me? If your moods shift, they evaluate its impact on their comfort. If you're overwhelmed, they wonder whether your attention will drift. If you're upset, they focus on what they might lose, not what you feel. This isn't always cruelty. Sometimes it's an emotional limitation. They understand emotions logically, but struggle to connect with them intuitively. The split between cognitive empathy and true emotional empathy. That's why your vulnerable moments can feel strangely hollow around them. You open up, and instead of support, you get redirection. Your experience reframed into theirs. Not because your story isn't important, because they're unable to inhabit it. And once they begin seeing relationships through this self-focused lens, something deeper forms beneath the surface. 4. They expect the world to bend toward them. Entitlement in self-centered individuals rarely announces itself. It appears quietly as assumptions. Assumptions that they deserve more attention, more tolerance, more exceptions, more emotional labor, more everything. They move through interactions as if people should adjust their needs without question, even though they rarely adjust to anyone else's. If someone else receives praise, they interpret it as a loss. If someone else gets help, they feel overlooked. If someone else has a moment in the spotlight, they feel displaced. It's not open competition yet. It's the unease of believing the universe is supposed to align around them and noticing when it doesn't. That tension grows until the next shift becomes inevitable. 5. Your success feels like a shadow over their identity. Someone else's achievement should be inspiring, or at least neutral. But for self-centered people, it triggers something uncomfortable. Your progress quietly threatens the hierarchy they have built in their mind. They may congratulate you, but there's a stiffness underneath, a pause that lingers too long, a tone that dips just slightly, a sense that your moment dampens theirs. And because their internal value depends so heavily on standing out, even the smallest accomplishment you make can feel like displacement. It doesn't matter whether the success is personal, professional, or emotional. If it elevates you, they feel reduced. This fragile balance pushes them toward a different strategy, one that looks like support, but functions as control. 6. Their guidance keeps you dependent. Self-centered people often step into the role of helper, advisor, or guide, but their support comes with invisible strings. Their suggestions are rarely about empowering you. They are crafted to define the terms of your progress. They enjoy being the authority you lean on, the person whose approval seems necessary, the one whose insight feels indispensable. Following their advice strengthens the illusion of their importance. Rejecting it feels to them like disrespect. This is the psychology behind manipulative help. Support that keeps the other person small enough to remain grateful. And when they sense they're losing that influence, their entire communication style shifts. 7. They hear the words, but not the meaning. Self-centered individuals engage in conversations with an agenda. They listen just long enough to find an entry point to steer things back toward themselves. They remember the details that reinforce their worldview and forget the ones that ask them to step outside it. This creates the uncanny sensation of talking to someone who's physically present but emotionally absent. You can't explain, clarify, or confide, but the moment you stop speaking, your words dissolve. This is the core of conversational narcissism, the erosion of connection disguised as engagement. And without genuine listening, even the gentlest feedback becomes unbearable. 8. Every form of criticism feels like an attack. Criticism, even soft, careful, constructive criticism, destabilizes them, not because of the content, but because of what it represents, a crack in the image they work so hard to maintain. They might deflect, shut down, become irritated, or twist the meaning of what was said. They'll protect their identity before they consider your intention. A request becomes an accusation. A suggestion becomes an insult. A misunderstanding becomes a threat. And when someone is that sensitive to being corrected, their perception of others becomes distorted. 9. They misinterpret neutral moments as personal judgments. A self-centered person rarely sees social interactions as they are. Every expression, pause, or shift becomes a reflection of themselves. If someone is quiet, they assume disapproval. If someone is distracted, they assume rejection. If someone isn't impressed, they assume jealousy. Psychologists connect this to distortions like the spotlight effect, the belief that everyone is constantly evaluating them. This creates misunderstandings that spiral into unnecessary conflict, drama, or withdrawal. And when the real world feels confusing or uncontrollable, they retreat to the one place where they can craft an identity without friction. 10. Social media becomes their stage, not their space. Online, self-centered people find the validation consistency they crave. They present curated images, polished narratives, and strategically timed posts that reinforce the identity they want others to see. If something doesn't perform well, it disappears. If attention rises, they amplify it. If admiration slows, they escalate their presence. This is the pulse of the validation loop, the cycle where self-worth becomes tied to metrics instead of meaning. They're not sharing their life. They're broadcasting a version of themselves that feels safer than reality. And everyone watching becomes part of an audience they're performing for. Self-centered people don't just consume your time. They consume your emotional clarity, your space to breathe, your ability to feel seen. Piece by piece, they draw you into their orbit until you forget that relationships are meant to be mutual. But once you understand the patterns, once you see how their world is shaped, you stop absorbing their behavior as a reflection of your worth. You reclaim the space they've taken. You protect the energy they drain. And most importantly, you remember that connection should feel shared, not one-sided.
Have you ever noticed how some people walk into a room and instantly lose everyone's respect, quietly, without even realizing why? It's not the loud mistakes that make people pull away. It's the small, subtle habits, the ones that signal more than they say. And once you understand them, you'll see how easily respect fades and how quickly it can return. It begins with something so common that most people don't even notice they do it. Cutting someone off mid-sentence, jumping in to finish their thought. On the surface, it feels harmless, just energy, enthusiasm. But underneath, it sends a quiet message. My words matter more than yours. Interrupting is a silent dominance cue, and the brain registers it as social disrespect. In studies on conversation flow, people rated interrupters as less trustworthy and more self-absorbed. The fix isn't to talk less, it's to listen longer. Wait half a breath, let them finish. That moment of restraint tells others something powerful. I value your voice. And in any social setting, listening is influence. But sometimes we don't interrupt, we just redirect. You share a story and somehow it circles back to them. You talk about a rough day and suddenly it becomes their tough week, their worst experience. Psychologists call this conversational narcissism. It's not cruelty, it's insecurity disguised as empathy. You're not connecting, you're competing for attention. If you want to reverse it, add one habit: curiosity. Ask one more question before you share your story. Because people don't remember those who talk the most, they remember those who made them feel most heard. Then there's the voice that drags a room down without even trying. Negativity, constant complaint, that low, invisible storm that follows someone everywhere they go. Emotional contagion studies show that negativity spreads faster than any virus. It drains focus, energy, and even memory in others. And soon, people start associating your presence with exhaustion. You don't have to fake positivity. You just need to speak toward a resolution. Vent to process, not to perform. Because every complaint without a solution teaches others to tune you out. And when your words lose gravity, your presence does too. The next habit hides behind good intentions, the need to impress. You drop achievements into stories, name-check connections, or humble brag about being so busy. You're trying to sound confident, but it lands as performance. Research shows that even authentic bragging feels warmer than forced modesty. At least honesty feels real. What people want isn't perfection, it's congruence. When your words match your energy, they trust you. When they don't, they feel the act before they hear it. You don't gain respect through flash or ego. You earn it by letting people discover your strengths on their own time. Then there's the quiet killer of credibility, inconsistency. Saying one thing, doing another, agreeing to plans you never keep, promising help, then vanishing. Behavioral inconsistency destroys trust faster than betrayal. People don't expect you to be flawless. They just want to know what to expect. Every time you flake, their confidence in you fractures, and once reliability goes, respect follows. Keep fewer promises, but keep all of them. Because integrity doesn't shout, it repeats itself. Some habits don't break trust, they just break the connection. Defensiveness is one of them. When every question feels like an attack, conversations turn into landmines. It's not intelligence people sense when you argue every point, it's fragility. You're not protecting truth, you're protecting ego. Studies show that calm receptivity, even under criticism, ranks as one of the most respected traits in social psychology. So pause before reacting. Ask yourself, am I listening to defend or to understand? That question alone can shift the energy of any room. Then there's the signal people read before you even speak, your timing. Being late seems small, but socially it says, my time matters more than yours. Lateness breaks rhythm. It tells people they can't rely on you to respect their boundaries. Over time, it's not about clocks, it's about character. The solution isn't just punctuality, it's preparation. Show up early, not for appearance, but to make others feel seen, because respect begins in small timing. And even when you arrive on time, are you really there? Distraction kills connection faster than distance. Looking at your phone mid-sentence, half listening while your thoughts race elsewhere. People feel that disconnection instantly. It tells them, you're not important right now. Even micro-distractions, a glance, a buzz, can cut perceived empathy in half. So put the phone away, hold eye contact, let silence stay. Because real attention is one of the rarest currencies left. Some habits live deeper, under the skin. Holding grudges is one of them. You think you're protecting your peace, but what you're really protecting is pain. People sense that heaviness. They start filtering themselves around you, walking on eggshells through unspoken tension. Letting go isn't weakness, it's control. It means someone else's actions no longer dictate your mood, and that kind of emotional steadiness, it's magnetic. But perhaps the most draining habit of all is needing constant reassurance, asking if someone's mad, fishing for compliments. It's what psychologists call validation seeking, and while it comes from insecurity, it lands as pressure. Confidence isn't built through approval, it's built through self-trust. The less you chase validation, the more freely people offer it, because connection breathes in space, not in demand. In the end, respect isn't lost in explosions, it's lost in inches. A missed pause, a broken promise, a forced smile. Every habit we've covered shares one truth. People don't dislike you for being imperfect. They pull away when they can't feel safe around you. So, protect the small things, your timing, your tone, your presence, your promises, because likability isn't about charm, it's about emotional awareness. And once you understand that, people stop just tolerating you and start trusting you. Even silence earns respect when it comes from strength. Have you ever met someone who stays quiet in a room, yet somehow sees more than everyone else combined? That quiet edge often belongs to an intuitive introvert, a person whose mind works in ways most people never notice. They move through the world with a kind of silent depth, spotting patterns before they form and reading people before they speak. But what actually gives them that unusual perception? How does their inner world shape what they notice? And why do their insights appear so sudden, even when they come from hours of hidden thinking? Those questions drive the journey we are about to take. And once you see how an introspective thinker really processes life, you may never look at quiet people the same way again. Because inside that calm surface is a mind working at full power. The way an intuitive introvert takes in information starts with something most people never consider: the depth of their sensory processing. Their brain does not move fast or loud, it moves deep. Instead of skimming the surface of an experience, their mind slows down and pulls details inward. A change in someone's tone, a shift in the room's energy, a pattern forming in a conversation. They don't hunt for these signs, they absorb them. Research on sensory processing sensitivity shows that some people's nervous systems take in far more data per moment than the average person. Their brain filters less out. That means they don't just notice what's happening, they notice what's underneath what's happening. This sensitivity also understands why they protect their energy so carefully. Loud places, fast talkers, flashing environments, these things hit them harder, faster, and deeper. But the moment the world gets quiet, their mind activates, the noise drops away, and the patterns rise to the surface. This isn't a weakness, it's power. It gives them access to layers of reality most people walk right past, and that deep perception becomes something even sharper when emotions enter the picture. This is where their quiet turns into something almost uncanny. Watch an intuitive introvert at a party. They aren't the first to speak, they're the first to see. A twitch in someone's eyebrow, a smile that slips for half a second, the weight behind a word. These tiny cues carry meaning, and a deep observer catches them long before anyone else does. Their sensitivity doesn't only apply to lights, sounds, or environments. It applies to people. Studies on perceptual sensitivity show that some individuals are biologically wired to notice emotional microsignals that others filter out. For an intuitive introvert, this means they don't just read the room, they read the pulse of it. This is why people often feel understood around them without knowing why. The intuitive introvert can sense when someone is off, even if their face looks calm. They hear the strain under a "I'm fine." They catch the moment a person tries to hide their disappointment or protect their pride. And because they process these signals internally, silently, they don't need someone to explain their feelings. They already saw it happen. But here's the twist. They don't just gather these signals, they turn them into meaning. And that takes us into one of their most powerful traits. If you could step into the mind of an intuitive introvert, you wouldn't see a quiet place. You'd see a world of motion, images, symbols, theories, flashes of connection, all happening behind a calm expression. Their thinking isn't linear, it's layered. A small detail sparks a larger idea. One memory links to an observation. An emotion triggers a concept. And before they say a word, a full picture forms inside them. This is pattern-driven intuition. This is what turns a simple moment into insight. Other people gather data piece by piece. The intuitive introvert gathers meaning as a whole. Their mind works like a lens, pulling separate threads together until the message becomes clear. It's why they understand people's intentions before the person explains them. It's why they can predict how a situation might unfold after watching only the first few steps. Their symbolic thinking also gives them unusual creativity. They don't just imagine ideas, they feel them forming. They sense the direction before the path exists, It's like their mind is always one step ahead, building connections that seem to appear out of nowhere, but actually come from deep internal processing. This internal world is not loud, chaotic, or scattered. It's focused, rich, and alive. And the more you understand how they think, the more obvious one truth becomes. Their insight isn't an accident. It's built into the way they see everything. Most people think creativity is about brainstorming hard or pushing through a block. But for an intuitive introvert, ideas don't show up on command. They arrive in bursts. A thought that hits out of nowhere. A solution that appears in the middle of a quiet moment. A connection that pulls itself together while they're doing something simple, like walking or washing dishes. This is not randomness. It's the incubation effect at work. Their brain keeps processing even when they've stepped away from the problem. While someone else may strain to think, the intuitive introvert lets the idea rest, and their mind reorganizes the pieces on its own. And when the clutter clears, a new insight rises. That's why they protect their alone time so fiercely. Solitude isn't boredom for them, it's fuel. It gives their mind the space it needs to unlock what's been building beneath the surface. But here's another reason these bursts feel so strong. Their symbolic thinking doesn't just create ideas, it pushes them forward, into the future, into possibilities others haven't considered yet. This is the turning point, because once the insight lands, their mind does something even more interesting. When an intuitive introvert walks into a room, they don't react to what's happening. They react to what's about to happen. Their brain starts building quiet predictions, internal simulations based on every pattern they picked up earlier. A slight change in someone's tone, a small shift in body language, a tension that flickers for a moment. Their mind takes these pieces and runs them through invisible mental models. It can make them slower to speak, but faster to understand. They pause, not because they have nothing to say, but because they are choosing the right thing to say. They're tracking the moment and the meaning at the same time. To others, this looks like caution. Inside, it's a calculation, and that creates a strange effect. Their accuracy is impressive, but their silence can be mistaken for distance, which leads to the final thing people get wrong about them. Silence makes people nervous. When someone talks less, the world tends to fill the gaps with assumptions. Cold, shy, detached. People throw these labels at intuitive introverts without realizing how wrong they are. Their quiet isn't emptiness. Their quiet is processing. They are reading, analyzing, connecting, and decoding. Their mind is working through layers at a speed that doesn't show on their face. But because their insight builds inwardly, people who rely on louder, faster communication miss what's happening. They also hide their depth on purpose. Not out of fear, but because exposing it to the wrong person feels wrong. Their sensitivity pulls them toward real connection, not noise. And when they finally speak, they say something that hits harder than anything that came before. This mismatch between how they operate and how others expect them to operate creates the illusion that they're hard to know. But the truth is simple. They're not distant. They're focused. And once you understand that, you start to see something most people overlook. Their quiet is not a gap. It's a doorway. You can spend years talking in circles, guessing, arguing, explaining, or you can start seeing the world from their perspective, through nuance, through clues, through the quiet spaces most people overlook. Because the intuitive introvert doesn't just look at life, they understand it. And once you notice how they see the world, it's impossible to unsee it.
A person reads a simple message, and within seconds, the mind races ahead to the worst ending imaginable. Catastrophizing is the habit of turning a small problem into a future disaster, even when no disaster has happened. It can feel sudden, like the brain grabs one clue, skips the middle parts, and jumps straight to the final scene. The story sounds convincing because it uses real facts like a late reply, a tight chest, or a mistake at work, and then adds scary meaning on top of them. Staying to the end matters because catastrophizing is not just overthinking or a weak personality. It is a safety system that can be understood, softened, and redirected so the brain stops acting like every normal day is an emergency. It often starts in ordinary places. Someone sees a missed call from a family member. Someone gets a short email from a manager